Welcome back, everyone. We're diving straight into today's explainer, because honestly, we're looking at a fascinating and, kind of stressful collision of tech trends right now. On one hand, our personal data feels more exposed than ever, literally spilling out from the most unexpected places. And on the other hand, the everyday devices we use to navigate this leaky digital world are skyrocketing in price while simultaneously scaling back on performance. We're getting squeezed from both sides, and understanding exactly how this is happening is absolutely crucial for anyone living on the modern web.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. First up, AI leaks and public links. Then, border searches and device wipes. Number 3, biometrics and holy data leaks. 4, the rising cost of tech. And finally, chips, piracy, and sanctions.
All right, Section 1, AI leaks and public links.
So you know how we all thought our chats with AI were, well, private. Turns out, not so much. There is a wild disconnect between what tech companies are claiming and the messy reality of what users actually do. Recently, Reddit users stumbled onto a goldmine. Conversations with Anthropic's Claude AI were just sitting right there in Google search results. Now, Anthropic, they immediately went on the defensive. They're saying, hey, chats are private by default, we give you a pop-up warning if you share a link, and we definitely didn't hand these over to Google. Basically, they're arguing it's on the user. If you post a shared link on a public crawlable site, it gets indexed. Simple, right? But man, the reality for users is a whole different ballgame. Because of that sharing feature, anyone could just search a specific URL string and unearth a mountain of incredibly sensitive stuff. We are literally talking about exposed crypto wallet keys and, let's just say a staggering amount of highly questionable erotica.
It actually gets even weirder. Just to give you a taste of the bizarre secrets people trust these bots with, somebody actually asked Claude, why is the record industry hiding that birds are secretly professional rappers who co-wrote most of Jay-Z's albums? I mean, it's hilarious for sure, but it hits the nail on the head, right? It perfectly illustrates just how intimate and unfiltered our AI chats can get. Now, users are arguing Anthropic really should have built in stronger guardrails, like just slapping a simple no index tag on those pages. And remember, this isn't a one-off glitch. Claude had the exact same thing happen last year, and we've seen similar leaks with ChatGPT, Grok, and recently DeepSeek. The big takeaway here, you might want to keep your crypto keys and, your Jay-Z bird conspiracies tucked safely away in a local text file.
Moving on to Section 2, border searches and device wipes.
Okay, before we get into this next story, let's make sure we're on the same page about the tech. Have you ever heard of a duress pin? It's a specific feature baked into privacy-focused operating systems like grapheneos. The way it works is, if you're ever forced to unlock your phone under pressure, you punch in this secondary, fake pin instead of your real one. The second you do, the device immediately and completely erases its own contents. It is literally a self-destruct button for your personal data.
So, here's how this played out in the real world. A U.S. citizen named Sam Tunick was coming back from vacation when U.S. Customs and Border Protection stopped him. The grounds? Possible CSAM possession, which is obviously a deeply serious and heinous offense. The agents kept demanding his passcode. Tunick, whose phone happened to be running grapheneos, eventually caved and gave them a PIN. But as you probably guessed, it was his duress PIN. The phone instantly factory reset itself. Boom, gone. Now, federal prosecutors are hauling Tunick into court, charging him with destruction of property to prevent seizure. The defense? They're arguing the initial search was totally a pretext, claiming Tunick was actually targeted because of his ties to protests against Atlanta's $100 million police training facility. But whatever the motives were, the physical reality is that the phone wiped itself clean right there in law enforcement's hands.
So why does this specific legal battle matter to the rest of us? Well, Bill Buddington from the Electronic Frontier Foundation brings up a massive point. Charging someone with a crime that carries up to 5 years in federal prison simply for factory resetting their own personal phone, that risks setting a really dangerous precedent. Depending on how the judge rules here, this case could effectively criminalize the mere existence and use of advanced privacy tools like grapheneos across the entire United States. It's a huge deal.
All right, that brings us to Section 3, biometrics and holy data leaks.
We are seeing just an absolutely wild spectrum of data security these days. On one end of the spectrum, we have Meta. They just rolled out Facebook Verified. If you want that shiny little white checkmark to prove you aren't an AI bot, you literally have to hand Meta a video scan of your face. Think about that. Their security approach requires surrendering your pure biometrics to a company that, let's not forget, got caught red-handed lying about hiding facial recognition software in their smart glasses. Then, swinging to the complete opposite extreme, we have the Vatican's official Click to Pray app. A security researcher who goes by the amazing name Bob the Hacker discovered this app had essentially zero protection. No passwords required at all. You could just guess account numbers and instantly pull up people's private info. Because of this totally botched security, the names and private emails of over 700,000 users were left exposed for at least 6 whole months.
And you know what the real kicker is? Bob the Hacker actually tried to warn the Vatican for those entire 6 months, but they only bothered to patch the leak once the story started spreading in the press. Honestly, in the Vatican's defense, they really should have seen this coming. After all, like it literally says in the book of Ecclesiastes, a little bird may carry your words and report what you say. Clearly, they knew all about data leaks back in biblical times.
Okay, all joking aside, this sets up a major pivot for this explainer. We've clearly established that our data, whether it's our AI chats, our literal faces, or our daily prayer habits, is incredibly vulnerable. But what about the physical devices we use to access all this leaky software? What is happening to our wallets?
Let's dig into that in Section 4, the rising cost of tech.
So, check this out. Global PC shipments actually dropped by 4% last quarter. This is a big deal because it marks the very first decline in sales volume we've seen since early 2025. People are just buying fewer computers, plain and simple. It's a trend that Intel's CEO has rather ominously dubbed the ongoing RAM apocalypse.
Yet, right in the middle of that global 4% slump, Apple completely bucked the trend. Their unit sales actually climbed by 13%. And what drove that? The massive success of their budget-friendly MacBook Neo. It's a clear signal. Consumers are absolutely still hungry for hardware, but we are incredibly sensitive to price right now. We want tech, but we want it cheap.
Unfortunately, for the rest of us, prices are heading in the exact opposite direction. Qualcomm recently warned its customers that their Snapdragon chip prices are about to jump by a double-digit percentage. And for us normal consumers, leaked listings are pointing to a direct hit on our wallets. The upcoming Google Pixel 11 lineup is expected to hike prices by a full $100 across the board, meaning the base model is going to start around $900.
But here is where the squeeze really hurts. You're shelling out that extra $100, right? But the new Pixel 11 Pro models are actually dropping from 16 gigabytes of memory down to 12. You are literally paying more money for less hardware. Now, sure, Google promises they're re-engineering Android to run super smoothly on less RAM, which, makes you wonder why they didn't just do that years ago. But the harsh reality remains. The hardware market is getting way more expensive and a whole lot less generous.
And that brings us to our final stop, Section 5, Chips, Piracy, and Sanctions.
This hardware squeeze, it isn't just happening on our smartphones. It's playing out on a massive global scale. For starters, we're seeing hardware being weaponized to rigidly lock down software. Microsoft, for example, is now heavily relying on the TPM security chip, which you might remember is a strict hardware requirement for Windows 11. If you weren't familiar, think of a TPM chip like a tiny, built-in bank vault on your motherboard. It holds encryption keys and verifies that your system hasn't been messed with. While Microsoft is now using this vault to force corporate Windows activation servers to mathematically prove they're running on genuine hardware before they hand out any software licenses. They are effectively killing off a massive, old-school enterprise piracy trick by permanently tying software permissions to physical, verifiable hardware.
Meanwhile, the global supply chain is absolutely fracturing under all this pressure. Rumor has it that Huawei, a state-backed merrymaker named Swear, and the Chinese government are all teaming up to build their own massive DRAM fabrication plant in Shenzhen. Their target? Cranking out 140,000 wafers every single month. Make no mistake, this is a calculated strategy to dodge US sanctions and survive this global RAM price apocalypse. But hey, if you were crossing your fingers that this massive flood of new chips might finally bring down the cost of building a gaming PC, you might want to think again. Industry analysts are noting this plant is going to focus entirely on high bandwidth memory, not standard consumer RAM. And even other Chinese manufacturers like CXMT were already dropping new modules into the market or just selling them at the current inflated market rates. Basically, nobody is riding over the hill to save our starving Chrome tabs.
So, let's tie this whole shebang together. We've seen AI bots effortlessly spilling our deepest, weirdest secrets. We've got biometrics becoming mandatory just to prove we're human, and essential privacy tools potentially facing criminalization right at the border. And at the exact same time, the everyday devices we rely on to navigate this absolute minefield are offering us less memory for more money, all while being increasingly locked down by hardware vaults and global trade wars. It leaves us with a pretty crucial question to chew on. As our tech gets more and more expensive and restrictive, are we actually paying a premium for better privacy and security, or are we just funding the hardware for the next massive data leak? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this helps connect the dots for you, and I will catch you in the next one.